What's going on, team? Coach Co here, and today we're going to talk to you a little bit about how I've been feeling lately. Now, over the course of the quarantine, I definitely feel like I have grown in many ways. I feel like I've aged like 5 years over the course of 4 months, if that's even possible. One of the most important parts of this quarantine for me has just been like self-reflection. And now Cassie and I, and for those of you who don't know, Cassie's my wonderful girlfriend. She helps with my photography. She helps with my videos. She has been absolutely fantastic. Now, during this process, we've both been experiencing a crazy amount of anxiety at different portions in time. For me, the height of that was basically at the end of last week, where for whatever reason, it just felt like life was moving a little too quickly in terms of opening up. Now, this brings me to my next point, all right? So I've been thinking, do I want to go back to training at a gym for the foreseeable future, at least immediate future? And we're going to talk about that a little bit. So let's cue the intro and get this party started. Alright, team, so I don't know about you, but the only time I can make a proper decision is when I make a list. It's all about pros and cons, right? We got pros here, cons here. So let's talk about the first pro when it comes to going back to the gym. Number one, you got endless exercise equipment, and I mean endless. You got space, you got that energy. Can we replicate that at home? Well, over the course of the quarantine, I have acquired a decent amount of stuff. And by stuff, I mean fitness equipment. So we're talking dumbbells, kettlebells, no barbells. So me personally, when I go back, if I go back, it's probably going to be primarily barbell focused. Just because I do thoroughly enjoy how I feel when I lift heavy. I like how my body looks, how my body feels. I feel strong. I feel like I can take over the world when I lift heavy. And I just haven't felt like that as much as I've tried to replicate it during quarantine. So I'll definitely give the gym a chalk one up for equipment and space.
Bad girl, I'm a nice guy. Liquor in my cup, I gotta really toughen up. Yeah, nurse strap. I'ma spray that money running, then I'm really banking on my luck. If the honey made me think I got some money, then I'm with it. If the ladies gon' be stressing me, then I ain't really with it. I ain't ballin' on your sussy boys, cause I be playing crystal. Tell me shoulda, woulda, coulda, sussy boy, you know I did it, baby. Bounce, flow, mouth, full pipe, per pipe, that. Lay some insulation, cause I'm hot, don't need no invitation. Chase that, pack that, pop that, scrap that. Sussy boy, you ain't that boy, like who you imitating, yeah.
As you saw, that workout was insane. I am literally dripping in sweat still. Haven't jumped in the shower, but I'm super excited to touch back on this point and ultimately come to some sort of conclusion with respect to should I go back to working out at a gym. So my next point I want to bring up is wearing masks. Now it's very important because ultimately, from what we know about coronavirus, the mask helps prevent you spreading your germs to other people. Now, if other people aren't wearing masks, they can still spread their germs to you. And, I feel both ways about this when it comes to a gym. And the reason being is because I hate wearing the mask outside. I mean, I still have to do it in certain scenarios, but it doesn't mean I have to like doing it. I can't stand it. So, that being said, I can't imagine working out like you just saw with a mask, albeit it was in the beating sun. But imagine indoors, yeah, there's air conditioning, but there's a lot more people and a lot more people sweating. So right now, the bylaw is that you can choose to not wear a mask when exercising. And again, I feel one of two ways about that. I mean, ultimately, I hate wearing the mask, like we just said. So Does it benefit me? Yeah, it does. But I think ultimately, I wouldn't prefer that everybody wears a mask. I mean, myself included, even if it's a little uncomfortable. Now let's try to imagine a gym with everyone wearing a mask. I mean, that doesn't really sound like the ideal place to be socializing and, I mean, even pushing out as hard of a workout as you possibly can. So you really got to start thinking, like, what is the gym going to look like when I go back, and am I comfortable being in that situation? This is where it all happens. This is where it all happens. It's crazy to think that, you know, a program where I'm offering people the opportunity to change their lives happens in my apartment. You know, I was sick of the excuse of not having a gym, and I just wanted to make it come to life. I wanted to make people's lives a little bit easier. And it's all about convenience, but it's also a lot about the programming and me not stopping until people are successful. So let's figure out a little bit about what's going on here so that you guys have a little bit of a better idea about boot camps. And then we can go run mine and you guys can see what it's all about. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the boot camps then. So what we have is we have an anaerobic circuit style HIIT workout. You're specifically burning fat and building muscle using as little as household items. I encourage people to use whatever they've got. This way there's no excuses. Now obviously, if we want to progress, we want to be increasing weight or increasing reps. And if we want to, if you feel a little uncomfortable with how difficult the movement is with the weight you have, I always encourage people to either do body weight or do something lesser. So things like a smaller laundry detergent container or something as little as a book. I mean, it might weigh 2 or 3 pounds, but that's 2 or 3 more pounds than you had on you before, especially as you start to burn fat. One of the most important things about this boot camp is keeping your heart rate high, all right? And making sure that the programming is right. And this way, you know, in order for me to formulate my thoughts, and it's gonna be a pain in the ass to lift this guy up, but I've got my whiteboard here, and this thing is basically my saving grace, because if it wasn't for this whiteboard, I don't know what the hell I can't formulate my thoughts unless I write them down. I make sure that each exercise has a certain number of compound exercises. So these are exercises that require more than one muscle group, which means that you're going to be working harder than you typically would if you were going to do something like an isolation exercises, like a bicep curl, right? So it's very obvious that there's way more muscles being used in something like a jump lunge with a press than a standard bicep curl. As a result, you're gonna build more muscle because you're activating more muscle. You're also gonna burn more fat because it requires way more energy. I keep rest times low. That allows people to work outside of their comfort zone, and at that point, the sky is honestly the limit on what you're capable of doing. Much of our issue when it comes to going back to the gym is it's just comfortable. You know, it's about getting outside your comfort zone. And let me tell you something, these boot camps, they make sure that you get outside your comfort zone. And the results speak for themselves right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna jump into our next boot camp. You guys get the pleasure of watching a few clips, and let's make this happen. All right, team. So I think this might be everyone today, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know? So we are gonna get started. I'm gonna let you guys know what's on the agenda for today. So, like I said, it's gonna be a sweaty one as always. We're starting with a jump lunge. We're holding the weight. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're pressing. All right, once again, keep it tight. 1, 2, 3, 4, press. So rather than pressing on every 2, we're pressing on every 4. This means we're gonna be working anaerobically for longer. It also means we're gonna be pressing a little less, which leads me to our next exercise. exercise. So we are going to be dropping down onto the floor and we're doing push-ups, conventional push-ups. Our hands are directly underneath our shoulders. We're going to go for as many as we possibly can. As per always, we want to make sure that if at any point we get too tired, we don't stop. We just drop to our knees and keep pushing. We're going to try to get as many out as humanly possible. Once we're done with those push-ups, we are going to be, first of all, elevating the camera. And secondly, we are going to be doing some decline presses. What do those look like? We're lying down on your back. You're thrusting up with both legs. We're going to pin our shoulder blades to the ground. And you're pressing straight up in the air after grabbing either end of whatever the weight you're using for today's classes. And essentially, we want to make sure we're pushing through the lats. So you tuck the elbows in. I don't want to see anyone pushing through the traps, okay? So that's how we end up with neck pain. Not looking for that. We're going to use your lats for stability and make sure that we get those pecs firing. Do I have any questions, lovely team? None. My favorite kind of question. So, what we're going to be doing now is we're warming up the same way we warm up each and every single class. We're going to be walking out. First off, we're hinging. We walk out into an elevated plank position. We plant one leg. We're going to hang out here for a few seconds. Switch legs. Hang out here for a few seconds. Try to keep those legs straight as we stand up. Take a bow. We're doing 6 to 8. I'm going to throw on some tunes, and we are going to get started with those jump lunges and presses. My goodness, today is going to be a fiery one. What's going on, team? As you just saw, things got pretty intense in our boot camp. I'm glad that everyone got a great workout in. So now to finish off the whole discussion of whether I think I should go back to training at a gym for the foreseeable future, we're headed up the roof. Like I said, sometimes you gotta figure out your place where you can just decompress and truly just make decisions and have constructive thoughts. And sometimes it gets quite noisy in here. I mean, I do work here, Cass lives here, and there's nothing wrong with the two of those things, but I just need some peace to just sit and think, all right? So we're heading up there. Usually it's pretty empty. Fingers crossed that today's the same thing. So, we had a crazy workout. We had an unreal turnout for the boot camp. Things were really popping in there. Let's get back into the discussion about whether we should go back to the gym or find an alternative to work out. Now, the last point I want to bring up is convenience. And much of our lives is about convenience. Let's think about why we go shop on Amazon, okay? Well, I mean, the convenience of it. Number one, you don't have to leave your house. Number two, they deliver like next day. Talk about convenient. So, the gym was convenient because it was a one-stop shop. And you just kind of pop in whenever you need to. Maybe there's one down the street from your house. At least in the case of big commercial gyms, it's not gonna be too convenient to end up going there, and I'll explain why. So, for instance, you're gonna have to book a time slot. And now, the government has implemented a bylaw or just a plan for stage 3, a prerequisite, if you will. And they've said that there's going to be a maximum of 50 people indoors at any given time for places like gyms. Now, what does this mean? This means that including staff members, people who are cleaning, and people working out, there's 50 people maximum, okay? Now, let's say best case scenario, there's 40 spots available. And let's say you typically work out at 5 or 6 p.m. Now, I don't know about you, but I know at least 15 people myself that like working out between 5 and 6. Now, what's the guarantee that you're gonna get a time slot? And even if you do, what's the guarantee that, let's say, the subway isn't late, or you're late on the drive, or you have to stay late at work because you've been given some extra responsibilities? And if you miss that time slot, it's only 1 hour. You're also only allowed to book one a day, typically. So what's gonna happen if you go into a workout with these expectations that you're actually gonna get a 1 hour workout in? I mean, we won't even talk about the fact that, you know, an hour for some people isn't enough time to get stretched and mobilized and warmed up and do their cardio routine and whatever they typically do for a workout on top of, you know, let's say they're doing resistance training. So the convenience factor of it, I think, really goes to the at-home / outdoor workouts versus the gym workouts. And, you know, ultimately this whole thing, okay, this whole conversation, the conversation we need to be having is about the why. And why do you need to go to the gym? Now, if you're a power lifter, it's almost instantly apparent why you need to go to the gym, okay? Or a gym, or have a squat rack, or have barbells. And it's because it's 100% part of your goals. You need that equipment, and, you know, for the most part, we don't have that equipment lying around at home. Now, if you're the average gym goer, can you find alternatives? Because I guarantee you, if we're going in there with the mindset, and we've waited 4 months to do this, to get back into our exercise routine, and we're like, I can't wait to get in the gym so that I can do X, Y, and Z, chances are that equipment's gonna be occupied. Chances are, you know, there's gonna be regulations that you hate. I mentioned like 4 of them. Chances are you're just not gonna have the same experience. And I think ultimately what we need to do is figure out the why and, you know, really get ourselves to be in a stage where we're motivated constantly regardless of the circumstances. All right? So take matters into your own hands. Find a way to motivate yourself at home, even if it's just occasionally. Let's say you go to the gym and you only get a half an hour in, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, okay? And you can only schedule twice a week. Maybe you schedule 3 times a week, and maybe that's not enough for you. Find a way to get motivated at home. Find a way to get motivated outside. Go for walks. There are so many ways to exercise. There's no excuses. It's all in here. This is the biggest excuse we have. All right? And if you want change, you need to change. Things need to change in order for things to change. So, what are we talking about now? Well, if you like this, if it got you going, if it got your brain going, if you think it's interesting, if you want to talk about it further, here are your options. First of all, like, subscribe, and share this thing. Comment below. It costs $0 to send me a message on Instagram. $0 send me a message on Facebook. $0 to message me below about your questions and concerns. And I will find a way to help you. I'll give you resources, you know. I'll try to post them in the link below, but ultimately everyone's situation is different. So if we have a conversation, we can potentially figure out what works best for you, all right? Because we got to stop thinking that things are going to go back to normal, because they're not. COVID has never been worse globally. I don't care what anybody says, all right? And so let's start to take matters into our own hands. Let's start to take success into our own hands and stop making excuses for why things aren't the way that you want them to be. We have unrealistic expectations already about how things are supposed to be. There's the rant for today. I hope you guys get fired up by this one. Take care, people.